sins will resume. We'll try to push drugs to keep us all dumbed down and hope that they will never see the truth around. Another promise, another scene, another package lie to keep us trapped in greed. Another green bells wrapped around our minds, and endless red tape to keep the truth confined. They will not force us. They will stop degrading us. They will not control us. We will be victorious.
Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in. We have an East Palestine update. You guys know I give you updates here and there, but I'm glad to have some people back from the community. We have Krissy, who is an EP resident, and joining in will be Christina. It is trick-or-treat night, so she will be here shortly. And then independent scientist Scott Smith, who all of these people have been on my show a number of times. I'm very thankful to have them back. Everything changes in EP like literally every day. And first, if you guys want to introduce yourselves, Krissy, we can go with you and kind of go around.
Yes, hi, I'm Krissy Hilton Ferguson. I lived in East Palestine on top of Sulphur Run Creek until the derailment and the open burn, and I have not been able to return to my home due to chemical contamination through the EPA, through CTEC, and through independent testers like Scott.
And Scott, why don't you kind of give people a rundown for people who may not be familiar?
Yeah, I'm Scott Smith, and starting with my own disaster that wiped my business and my company out that I owned in 2006, over the last 18 years, I've been now in 78 different contamination events. I actually updated this, and East Palestine was the 76th, Piqua, Ohio was the 77th, and Conyers, Georgia was the 78th. And Krissy, obviously, all the residents are great in East Palestine, but Krissy reached out to me on Facebook, and I got to post that on my page, Krissy, and it was either late April, early May of 2023. And I have tested Krissy's home over time. She sits above Sulphur Run. Krissy's testing is key to the entire community and proves the ongoing contamination. And the third event that no one really talks about was the heavy remediation. And recently, as you know, what's unprecedented is that Stephen Petty, the plaintiff's expert that was silenced, came out with a sworn declaration and vindicated me after all the smears and everything else going on. And full disclosure, I was at a Halloween party with Mark Durno and the plaintiff's attorneys tonight. I did dress like a clown, and everyone took me for Mark Durno. So anyway, so it was great. And I am joking, everybody, but it's there's some very special things about going to come out over the next month related to some of these unscrupulous class action attorneys and Mr. Durno, and we can address some, but not all of it. But I can rest assured, those in East Palestine, truth and justice will prevail. And those in Conyers, Georgia, East Palestine, they're trying to use the playbook there, but residents like Krissy are happy to guide you. And hopefully we're welcoming some new audience for you, Joy, to Conyers. And for those new audience members, if you're watching or you're going to watch this recording on my Facebook page, Joy Marie Mann is the future. Independent journalism, like so many other great journalists, they are the mainstream media right now, because All of the other media is nothing but public relations arms for the government that unfortunately partake in covering up the truth. And I have no problem with people's opinions, but these other, people at, at the networks and the so-called mainstream media, they should not call themselves journalists. They should call them, we are public relations arms. We are taking money from the EPA and from the government and from these others, and we are here to represent the government and the polluter. Full disclosure, but they don't do that. But that's okay, because it's great independent journalists like you, Joy, that are starting to expose all the corruption. And, and I'm going to end my introduction with this. And I think some of these unscrupulous class action attorneys and some of these PR people posing as journalists, in many, many ways, they are much worse than Norfolk Southern and the billion-dollar companies, because they are knowingly selling out the community and all the residents like Krissy. And some of residents don't even understand how they were sold out. But we will get the truth out. So.
Absolutely. Matt, I think you have a video from Scott about him and Stephen Petty. There's a clip.
What I got from you was just a PDF, I believe.
No, there's an email. You got a link to a YouTube.
I don't see it, you guys. Can you forward it to me?
Yeah.
Right.
Check your spam.
Right, make sure you send it.
Oh, here, it's separate. Here, let me send this one. Or no, wait. Oh, no, that's you. No, we don't have one.
I'll resend it right now.
Yeah.
Over the last 8.
Sorry about that, guys. I literally just got off of work at 6. We have trick-or-treaters and this at 7, and I'm like, ah. But I know Krissy is always like, I gotta go to bed, because you work crazy shifts, and I'm like, we're doing it at 7 and we're asking
I sent you key links too, guys. Check your spam. If you only got one email, that's probably because the others are in the spam folder.
And make sure you're sending it to toxoplasmatic@gmail.com. That's my email address.
Oh, okay, I'll forward right now. You got the other one, right?
I got the one that Joy forwarded to me.
Yeah. All right.
With the PDF.
Oh no, I've been using it, Matt at mattlusing.com.
Yeah, that one's old. I haven't paid them, so they turned that one off.
Matt.
Technology.
Yeah, nothing's freaking free anymore.
I know.
Us damn commies, we want free stuff all the time. I forwarded it.
All right. Cool.
So, guys, here's a funny aside. If you guys haven't watched my show before, I am 85% blind, and I didn't realize Scott was having trouble getting in, and the whole time Matt was up there, I thought it was Scott. And Scott called and said, I can't get in. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what? I'm like looking at you right now. It's humorous.
All
sometimes.
right. I got your video. Let me play it for you.
Let's bring in independent testing expert, Scott Smith, and chemical exposure expert, Stephen Petty. Gentlemen, thank you both so much for being here. Stephen, now that the judge has signed off on this class action settlement, what can you tell us about what you know about basically government officials and the parties just trying to make this go away?
Sure. I mean, I'm on a non-disclosure, so I can't tell you what I know from the case, but I did write a declaration on 3 topics of concern. One was a epidemiologist or toxicologist named Dr. Carson wrote that basically there's nothing to see here, that people in the future won't be harmed from these chemicals. I didn't see any documents from him, and nor do I know of any cumulative exposure that makes that case. I don't see how you can make that case. Secondly, the EPA has produced a lot of summary data, but we know from a variety of sources that they've really basically not been transparent about what they know. And last but not least, I was asked to look at independent whistleblowers data, Scott Smith. And because I've been disclosed in 400 cases on exposure assessment, I went through his data, and there was nothing that troubled me about the work that he did.
So Scott, let's talk about, the EPA. They came out and said they hadn't detected contaminants at a level of concern. I think that was 3 days after the derailment. What's your finding? What do you think happened here? How toxic was the plume, and what impact did it have on the residents of East Palestine?
There's Dagan and Sean, thanks for having me. And the EPA is front and center of how the multi-billion-dollar corporation, Norfolk Southern, and the plaintiffs' attorneys have hidden behind the EPA. And the EPA has altered data and manipulated data to fit the narrative, nothing to see here. For example, 52% of my testing says nothing to see here, which is good. 48% identifies the hot zones. I have an expression: you can't find what you don't look for. And, I intended to go twice to East Palestine, and as a matter of principle, I didn't give up, and they didn't refuse to test in the hot zone near the properties where I tested. And again, it's been reviewed by my scientific team. Dioxins, it's a unprecedented mixture of chemicals. I've been in over 60 disasters in 18 years, starting with my own. And it's like all disasters in one because of the mixtures on this: dioxins, plastics burning, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, and many more.
It's just so distressing that, Scott, why would the EPA do this? Why isn't the EPA protecting the people of East Palestine?
The EPA is completely a captured agency. And Dagan and Sean, I wish you could have been in that courtroom yesterday. The judge already had her decision basically written for her, and it was already predetermined. And I thought I was actually in Venezuela. I was there for the whole thing. And here's why. One of the residents upset rose and said the plaintiff's attorneys were lying, which they were. And you got to understand, we'd be having this discussion no matter Republican, Democrat appointed judge. The problem is the system work is designed not as it should. This means that the court kept it of the multi-billion-dollar corporation and the plaintiffs, enriching the elite plaintiffs' attorneys. And there's going to be a lot more to discuss later on, because we have a lot more information to expose what's going on. And that judge stood up after she told a resident that obviously was upset. She had the U.S. Marshals say, put her on the pavement. I've seen a lot of court. And then the judge stood up and looked at all of us. Who wants to challenge me next? So, I mean, it's the system. It is really, and the judge banned cameras and audio and this transcript. So there's going to, it is incredible.
We're going to keep following the story. Scott and Stephen, thanks for being with us. We appreciate it.
Krissy, were you there in person? What was your thought as you're witnessing this? You see the judge, obviously some of us
I
were
didn't
kind
really
of
get to see the judge. We were told, and it was explained all over news reports, social media, that we would be allowed to speak to the judge, and that we would also see the evidence that the lead plaintiff attorneys had on Norfolk Southern. So I was thinking more of an informational meeting. We were held in a waiting area with a TV monitor. The ones that had put in, it was the plaintiffs, the lead plaintiffs, the select that represented the town. Well, that was supposed to represent the town. And the people that had objections were allowed in. So that was Pastor Sheely and Jamie. And we were all kept out. We never seen any evidence that the lead attorneys had against Norfolk Southern. That was not shown. And you can go back and search news reports from 21, 27, all over local news channels, newspapers, Morning Journal, Youngstown, Vindicator. It was publicized that we would be allowed to speak. And we weren't even allowed in the courtroom.
Scott, you were supposed to testify, weren't you?
Yeah, the judge didn't allow anybody, me, George Thompson, and a variety of others. And this Judge Benita Pearson, I think she's from Cleveland, and this all went down. She actually walked in with her written decision. It was a complete show trial. The system, it's the system. It doesn't matter if the judge would have been, she happened to be appointed by Obama. It didn't matter if it would have been a Trump judge, a Clinton judge, or a Bush judge. The system is just so favorite. Oh, hi, Eddie.
Hi, Eddie.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Did you get some treats? Happy Halloween.
Hey, Eddie and Christina, you missed it. I came from a Halloween party. I dressed up like a clown, and Mark, everyone thought I was Mark Durno.
Well, we had some
Eddie.
experiences here trick-or-treating.
Aw.
So,
Everything okay?
Yeah,
enjoy-
there was a brush fire somewhere, and so the sirens were like crazy the entire time, and people were like, "What's going on? What's going on? What's going on?"
Oh,
Great
God,
for
that's so
PTSD, isn't
scary.
it?
Oh, God. Scott, why don't you continue?
Yeah, I was going to say, you really got a first-hand look at the problem with the system, and it's all tilted towards, and the thing that's happened, and why I never thought Conyers, Georgia, at least 12 million pounds of chlorine burned, 2 million pounds of chlorine compounds burned in East Palestine. So it's at least 6 times more. You're seeing the same playbook, the same class action attorneys, Grant Eisenhower, Adam Gomez, the same ones that threatened me. And they're all appearing down in Conyers, Georgia. And they had a Zoom session, Jane Conroy from Simmons Hanley Conroy. They actually have the audacity to brag about East Palestine. And they're saying the judge up front, when they were asked, the judge controls on the release of the testing results. That's an outright lie. And something very important, the only 2 people that signed sworn declarations under the penalties of perjury with everything were me and Stephen Petty. You don't see Mark Durno doing that, and these judges, these plaintiffs' attorneys stood up and deceived the court. But that's okay. There's a lot more that's going to be coming out. I wish I could reveal all, but it's going to have to happen over time, because the best way to protect the residents and get the justice is to let certain things play out. But in these same attorneys, and it is an absolute lie for anybody that's watching.
Well, they turned off our chat. I was on that Zoom for Conyer. They turned off our chat. They selected the questions just like they did when they had Chip speak in a pre-recorded message to East Palestine. Chats were turned off. People were silent. I raised my hand as soon as I got into that meeting, and of course they're not gonna put Krissy on the mic to ask questions. None of us from East Palestine. Because everything's good here. Well, it's not, and those attorneys have our blood on their hands, like everyone else that's been involved in this.
They're trying to repeat the same. Now, it's these specific unscrupulous attorneys. I'm not demonizing all attorneys, just like, medical, there are good doctors, bad doctors, good attorneys, bad attorneys. But the other thing is they hired this Stephanie Wolf of Rebuttal PR. They hired a PR firm after, they agreed with the media. Stephen Petty did and I did up until April. We were all in agreement. All of a sudden, when the settlement happened, they had 180 million reasons why to adopt the EPA narrative, nothing to see here. And early on, they promised the residents, and the outright lies blaming the judge is just not true. There are attorneys out there that actually have morals and that are ethical, that believe they should immediately turn testing over to the residents. And what happens, and it's very important for the public, you'll see how this, what happens is the class action attorneys, they make promises to the residents and they're doing all this testing. And then they go to the billion-dollar company and and say, hey, we'll sit on all this data. It'll never see the light of day if you settle now. And what is unprecedented is getting about $180 million in attorney's fees in a little over a year. And they can talk all they want about the unprecedented recovery. And I'll let Christina and Krissy, do you think it's 70,000 you might get less? So and again, I can't say enough. Christina, for those from Conyers, Georgia that are watching, Krissy and Christina are just a few of the incredible residents. And Christina probably knows more than I do about testing at this point. So maybe you should go to Conyers and step in. So I'm here to support the community. And, I'm just really proud to call all of you my friends for life. And this fight is going to continue.
Absolutely. And if we do have people watching from Conyers, Georgia, I have been trying to get a hold of a few of you. I'd love to have you on my show. I can have 2 or 3 at a time. I definitely want you guys to share your story without question. So please, you can reach out to me however, or if you connect with Scott, he has my phone number. But I definitely want to share your stories as well. Because they need to be shared. Christina, I know that a few days ago, you texted me and you're like, oh my God. So 2 council members, 2 resigned within 4 days, but 2 were a weekend. So we'll say 2 days. They resigned.
Right. The village manager, and I don't know what the other guy's title is.
He's the city
Krissy might know who
councilman.
he is.
Yeah.
Just a councilman.
He
Okay.
had specific roles within city council, but he was
Yeah.
considered city council, which is different than our city manager.
Yeah. From what I understand is the first person, the city manager, had resigned because of bullying, it sounded like, from the letter that I read, the post that I had read. And then this guy that the article is up about right now, it actually says it's kind of, small, unacceptable behavior. But, I've been talking to some people about that, and, I feel like when you are representing a community, the way that people have acted is unacceptable. And that's the mayor, a lot of the people on the council. And it's also I wanted to bring it up a little bit with Joy, is it's something that's going on here, not just in the council, but people overall are bullying everyone because whatever reasons, they're not sick. They think things are fine, over money,
Appeals.
people's appeals. Yeah. Your rights, basically. So
Pastor gets death threats. It's speaks volumes about a small town community that is
and then we expect our kids to be any better.
Yeah.
when the adults are doing it.
We wonder why. Yeah. We wonder where they learn it from, don't we?
So
Yeah.
you guys not only have to take on the machine of the establishment, you guys are also having to put up with residents who have, I mean, some of these people have been doing this from the get. I mean, since day one,
Tongues,
it's been
voodoo
like,
dolls, stolen mailboxes. This wasn't Norfolk. Now, not those couple incidents. This is the town is sharply divided, and it's getting worse, and it's to the point that I don't think
You don't even want to deal
it's
with
worth it. Yeah, it's just draining. I don't want to see anyone get sick. I hope you get your settlement. I'll say it like this. I hope you get what you deserve. Everyone deserves something different. You know, you get what you deserve, and, you live your life. But some people need to get out. Some people are having serious health issues. There's more contamination. I might not be able to stay on for all of that, but Christina can talk about Tank Farm 3. Is it Tank Farm? Is that what
Yeah, Tank Farm 3.
Yeah. And the creek that is feet away from where they're truck washing and mat washing, and any overspills or anything that they do wrong is going right into that waterway. And there are people that I hope help with that. We talk about the EPA being captured, and our government's captured just equally the same. But at the end of the day, there are still people that can make a difference. And I really hope that whether you're a contractor, whether you're an employee, whether you're an agency, I hope at the end of the day, they think how they would want somebody to fight for their loved ones. And I still believe that there are some people on the fence that still haven't seemed to sell their souls. Like it appears to me, in my opinion, that the lead plaintiff attorneys already sold theirs for the 200 mil. But there are still people that could help. And maybe I'm naive, I don't know. But I still, through all this bad, for my own mental health, I gotta see that they're still good. There's you, Joy, there's Scott, there's all of you. There's Christina that sacrificed her health that she cannot get back, that has issues now because she went in that creek day in and day out, day in and day out. Why'd she do that? To try to keep my family safe, to try to keep a community that's safe, that's backlashing and talking the worst hateful things about her. And those are the people that's going to stand before God one day, and they're going to feel what they made her feel. And they're going to feel what she went through, all the sickness she felt, all the tiredness, everything. This woman's a hero that doesn't have a title except what the community called her, the Creek Ranger. She risked every day and just repeatedly gets kicked. And it's disgusting. And there is a time where no amount of money is worth your soul. And the people doing this to her They're losing their soul. She is a hero. She is my hero, and she is a community's hero. And Courtney Miller was too. And we see what happened to Courtney. And I'm telling you what, there's a lot of her blood on agencies, government, and Norfolk's hands.
Absolutely. And Christina, I know what you're going to say, but you are a hero, so take it. But yeah, I mean, for those who don't know, I mean, Christina, you know, aside from Scott volunteering and traveling from, you know, Massachusetts all the time to help
And getting
the
sick
community.
too.
Yeah. And
And
Christina,
you getting sick. All of
I
you
mean,
were heroes.
Christina goes in that creek all the time and does her own. She's like, some of the stuff she says, I'm like, wait, what? I don't have a science degree. Well, neither does she, but she has taught herself so much and just investigated so much and learned so much. And she puts her health at risk every day going in those creeks and looking into things. And she is just a rock star. She's a warrior, and so is Krissy. And these are two of the unsung heroes for, you know, people who are keeping this fight going. They're, you know, and I think I see Krista in here. Shout out to you as well. You're incredible. It's awesome. And I know, Christina, I know you too well. You're gonna be like, oh, no.
I'd like to jump in and echo something here. And yes, all these people are going to have to stand before God. But before they get to God, there's a lot that's going to go on that I'm involved in and down the road. There are going to be depositions, and I'm going to air them on public. They're going to have to stand before the public on YouTube. Let me just say this about the EPA. And again, any whistleblowers listening, Government Accountability Project,
Yes.
Stephen Petty came forward. And Stephen Petty is a really incredible human being. It's worth all the pain and agony and defamation I took to get to know that man. For a plaintiff's expert to come forward and do the right thing and sacrifice everything and put it all on the line. That man is incredible, and that was a game changer. But I'm going to tell you, in the FOIA request, the EPA, they talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion and anti-bullying. Now, what we know is that the EPA has worked hard to facilitate what they view as influencers doing their narrative. I promise all of you, I'm going to expose it all. And they're trolls. We know who they are. Mark Durno is connected to the trolls. They appeared in Conyers, Georgia, too. The cowardly troll and Durno are going to have a lot to answer to. And I am going to be in the room when they get deposed and they put their hand on the Bible. And I am doing that. I will not rest until I do that for the community. And, as everybody knows, I would still sit down. I reached out. I tried to work with all these people. I don't try to start fights. I'd like to try to bring people together. And it's great what's going on between the Conyers community and East Palestine. But as you know, Joy, we did a show about a year ago. I was subpoenaed in my driveway right around Halloween by an EPA attorney, Duvina Pajaro, who sold out to Norfolk Southern, and they thought they could intimidate me. But as you all know, I'm built a little differently. $1 billion company comes at me and threatens me, trolls threaten me. That makes my day. That motivates me. So I can assure you what the bullying that has gone on. To me, it's unconscionable. It's reprehensible to hear our government talk about anti-bullying, diversity, equity, inclusion, and they are facilitating the bullying, the smearing, and the defaming. I got thick skin, I can take it. But what they've done to Christina and Krissy and a whole host of residents, it's evil. And I will not rest until I expose it and I name names and I put them on camera for the world. We'll see how. Can you imagine some of these trolls? We know who they are actually right now. But when we go after these trolls legally and put them on camera, we'll see how tough they are.
Yep, Absolutely. There's so much that goes on behind the scene that we can't talk about, and it's frustrating because we want to be like, we have this small win and that small win, but we can't because we needed to go through the proper channels and all of that. So it's frustrating, that's why I'm so glad we're friends and not just a journalist and people I've met. Like, you guys have become my community for over a year now. But what concerns me is, well, many things, but for those who, and by the way, there's over 80 people watching, so please smash like and subscribe. But, you've got people who, all this happened, and you have Norfolk literally spending $25 million building a new park, a new playground in East Palestine. Now, I've been there like 5 times now, and I get sick every time. So I wouldn't exactly encourage people to go play there, but if $25 million, if they would have given that to the residents day one, they all could have bought new homes, moved out, and been a lot healthier. Would it have still been jacked up? Absolutely. Would it have changed everything and made their world whole again? No. But it would be a totally different game changer, hands down. But you're talking about 21 months. We're going on almost 2 years of them making people's lives a living hell. And people, residents still have to keep fighting to even, like Krissy, I know you have had it horribly trying to stay where you are in the relocation, so you don't even have to go back to your house that is contaminated, which literally everyone knows and says.
Joy, I'd like to add something here. You can talk about, it can be, the Biolab in Conyers, Georgia, the $1 billion company, can be BP in the Gulf of Mexico or Norfolk Southern. They can't, if there's not somebody willing to sell out their own community and their own taxpayers, they can't execute. That's why I put some of these class action attorneys and some of these ex-EPA people in the incestuous revolving door. They are worse than the bill, because if they don't sell out, and if our government puts policies in place, you cannot go work for the $1 billion company if you had any position within the government. That's where my focus is exposing all these people that sell out. And again, I can't harp enough. The diversity, equity, inclusion, and anti-bullying seminars that they all go to, and you have Mark Durno tied to a troll. That is just incredible. That is just, it's got to stop, and it's got to be exposed, and they got to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And you got the judge. I mean, I'd love to take that Judge Benita Pearson and take her and the class action attorneys and lock them up in Krissy's house for a week.
Exactly. It's insane. It's crazy.
And then let them say there's nothing to see here.
Right. Krissy said, I should turn it into a bed and breakfast and tell them their first week is free. And I was like, that's genius, because they won't take her up on it, because you walk in and 5 minutes later you're like ready to pass out. Now, Christina, I want you to touch on this as well, because you're over 5 miles out and you have still had very bad health problems. You could see the explosion of the derailment from your house, even though you're over 5 miles away. Can you talk about, the effects of still what you're going through?
At my house, it seems like we get sick more often than we used to. But like our cats they still get sick. All right, Edward. And, like the congestion, we still have that, and coughing.
This is what?
Since it's gotten cooler out, you know, you don't really hold on. I'm talking. It's a Snickers bar. We, you know, we don't get the smells like we used to, but maybe we just don't notice it so much. Because today, when I'm up in East Palestine now, and when we came up here, or when I came up here this morning, there was like that bleach kind of smell in the air from Negley, which is south of here, all the way up here. I smelled it, but you know, it might have something to do with work that they're doing lately. And I mean, Krissy touched base on it a little bit earlier. We're not really sure what they're doing exactly yet. But she had mentioned like that Tank Farm 3, and we had met with EPA earlier today, and we asked a little bit of questions, and it seems like there have been some other hits of chemicals. He didn't exactly say which ones, around the Tank Farm 3 area, and then they're going to be doing more testing. And also, there was, I can't remember the actual term that he used, but it was also known as monobutyl ether, and I can't remember the whole word, over by the wetlands, or in the wetlands. And so they're going to have to dig some of that out, and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do, because you have to be careful with that environment, I guess.
I'm sorry, keep talking. I apologize.
But yeah, he said that is from nothing else but the train. So, I mean, it has to come from that.
Christina, I'd like to bring you into some future Conyers Facebook Lives that we do, because you were in that creek with me, and more than me, you know, and I was probably in there a dozen times. You've probably been in there, what, 100 times or more. But there are chemicals I'm finding near a dead frog in Conyers that we didn't even find in East Palestine that are very concerning. So I think I'd love to get you involved with Conyers.
I talked to them, not to Conyers, but I talked to EPA earlier about Conyers a little bit, and I had asked about how I had heard that there wasn't going to be a cleanup, and he had said that there was, like, from what they had done, they did air monitoring down there, and that's done. And hold on, Eddie. And then it was going to be kind of like turned over to the state to do whatever they're going to do with it. They might call the EPA back in, but he wasn't sure yet. But as far as he knew, they're, aside from what they've done as cleanup in the actual area of Biolab, that is like all they're doing in regards to EPA.
Wow. Take it out. Yeah.
You can already see the narrative there, and we all know how they game air testing. Nothing to see here. The instruments don't work. But for me to find those volatile chemicals within 1,500 feet that we didn't see in East Palestine in the water, in the retention pond, is very significant.
Wow. What are your plans, Scott, for East Palestine? Are you going to be going back there anytime soon?
Yes. And I don't publicly announce it because I'm not scared of any. There's just a lot of threats that I'm getting, but that's okay. It goes with the territory. I don't have
text me when, because I'm gonna go out too.
Well, and there's some things that are gonna. There's some really big stories that are going to unfold and go public after the election. So we will be in touch. You will be tagged. You will be the first to know on social media, and along with Christina, there's a lot of big stuff ready to come out.
Good. Christina, I know my buddy Eddie wants me to come back and bring prizes. That's what he calls presents, prizes. This is my Eddie impression. Hey, Joy. He's so darn cute. But what were the differences last time you went, Scott? Like what were the differences? Did you see, were the test results higher? Was the air different when you breathed it in?
Well, it depends. We had some soil testing that we're still in the hot zone as recently as April of 2024. We did see some improvements in some of the creek testing, but still above screening levels where you need more monitoring. But again, you've heard me say it, you can't find what you don't look for. And the fact that we have a federal agency with 17,000 people and $12 billion refusing to do thorough testing, refusing to test residents. And again, I don't go out asking to test or anything. I can't keep up. Residents reach out to me because the EPA refused. And that's just unacceptable. And as you know, we now know why. And that sworn declaration I filed has 629 pages of exhibits. Anybody can go to the Government Accountability Project website, download. I encourage anybody, whether it's from Conyers, East Palestine. And remember, I kept saying, why does everyone need to care about East Palestine? Because it can be your community next. I didn't know it was going to happen in Conyers. So anybody listening, you should go look at and see what your government agency has done. Because again, these are sworn declarations from Stephen Petty and I, and it lays out how the EPA creates the false narrative and manipulates and covers up data. And it really says something. Now I know why Mark Durno refused to test side by side. When you look at how they gamed the system, they never wanted to reveal their detailed testing reports and reciprocity.
Right. And for everyone listening, let's take a minute to really think about this. Your house is contaminated. You're sick. I won't even go into all the detail of residents who have texted me with like the worst medical things ever. And you're trying to deal with all that, the home you've lived in for generations, and your local environmental protection agency is not only disregarding you, is lying to you. And if Scott did not step in, who would be doing tests? They wouldn't have any answers. So Scott is the reason that this stuff is being found out. And now Stephen Petty, who actually was working on the behalf of people like Norfolk, came out and whistle blew and said, wait, I can't be part of this. That my test results actually side with Scott. People like, the whistleblowers, they are what are really going to help change this. And thank you so much to Leslie Pacey, who is from Government Accountability Project. They represent both me and Scott, and many others who whistle blew on some of the things that we've.
So I just want to say, if you look on that screen, you see came forward. If you click on that goes to all the affidavits, declarations, and the exhibits. So all you can click and you can see everything we're saying. And again, you see all these speculations and all these smears and defamation coming from PR people, the class action attorneys and EPA. You don't see them signing a sworn declaration under the penalties of perjury.
Yep. Absolutely. So, you not only you're fighting the sickness, you're fighting losing your family, you're fighting all of this. And a lot of the East Palestine residents have told me, I was proud to be an American. I was proud of my government. I was proud, and I, had my flag outside of my house and things like that. And they're like, I can't think of it anymore because not only did this happen, my government is literally making it worse. not only just not holding them responsible, but actually covering it up. And I mean, these are people's lives. It's insanity.
I just want to say, though, we live in very, stressful times. I see something you don't see on the lamestream media. I am seeing people come together from all walks of life in Conyers, Georgia. And that really, I get very emotional, and it just makes this all worth it, no matter how many smears and attacks you have to take, because that's why the government and the corrupt people are so scared of free speech. They see because if millions of people come together, we can take our government back and we can hold these people accountable. And it doesn't matter. It's about a broken system. It's not about political parties, and people are waking up. And I do not see in the communities, this is still the greatest country. It has its issues, but I am seeing people come together from all walks of life that have had enough with the false narrative about how bad this country is and all the division. So don't let there be no doubt about it. I'm more optimistic than I've ever been about the future and bringing people together because of the people like Christina and Krissy, and I can't name them all in East Palestine, and because of the calls I'm getting from Conyers, Georgia. And for me, it really gets, it makes me so proud and happy to see the connection going on when Christina starts working with the people in Conyers, because I said East Palestine was going to change this country for the better. I'm seeing that right now in Conyers. For example, Christina, had the community, had I known, I'm not a lawyer, what I know now, because the people in Conyers can now organize and start bombarding that judge with the truth about the class action attorneys, because that judge there's a whole bunch of motions now where these same cast of unscrupulous attorneys are trying to get lead counsel. And so that's why my suggestion is for those of you in East Palestine to have a Zoom town hall or something with the people in Conyers, because if they petition and they march and they do everything within that is legally possible, that judge will listen, because the judges listen to political pressure and social media. So there's a big opportunity right now to expose the same playbook that some of these unscrupulous class action attorneys are using in Conyers.
And I don't know if, a lot of people were aware. Whenever I did some random search one night, and then that's whenever I had found out about the same attorneys being down there that were up here, and they're running their advertisement for being their attorneys down there as this. We were involved with the great $600 million lawsuit in East Palestine, and it's still in an appeal. So, and many of us did not think, it was that great. So, we do want to give them a warning, about these attorneys. That was the thing I brought up today too with the EPA was, after our meeting, we were kind of I mentioned the attorneys to the member of the EPA I was talking to, and he was kind of really? That's who's down there? Yeah, that's who's down there. Well, and then I told him about how they're running this ad, the $600 million lawsuit in East Palestine. And I said, it's kind of messed up, because it's like when you bury somebody that did not die they weren't old when they died or anything, the normal way that people die, but they're already running on that. It's like asking somebody how somebody died, right? You haven't even put the dirt over their coffin yet. So
Yeah.
I forget what the word was that he used. It's they're some kind of chaser. I forget what the word was.
Ambulance chaser.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, did you see also what I sent you? And I don't think a lot of people know that it's on the docket. You can see these class action attorneys like vultures pecking on a carcass. Did you see what I sent you about the motions, about how they're fighting over all their money?
Mm-mm.
Oh yeah, there's a PDF on motion that I sent.
My email.
Yeah, check your email. And I apologize. I don't mean to give vultures a bad name by comparing them to the class action attorneys.
Huh.
Can you break this down for us? Like,
Yeah,
what?
basically, you know, it's the lawyers fighting all the fee allocations, and it gives you an insight to why there's always a big fight for who the judge makes is the lead attorneys, because the lead attorneys are talking about wire instructions. It just kind of shows now the attorneys fighting with each other over the fees. They're not fighting for the people of East Palestine, though. They're clients.
No.
And people, you know, just to give a heads up, and we have over 100 people watching, so please like, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff, because otherwise my show doesn't really get a better algorithm. So please do that. But you know, this 600 million, oh wow, that's a lot of money. It's not, because it's split amongst many, many, many people. And it's depending where you live, you get more, you get less. The most anyone gets is $70,000, which does not buy a new house. But especially by the time you take the lawyer's fees out, you anything you would have gotten from Norfolk, as in, you know, you stayed at a hotel for a week when it first happened, things that's deducted. I mean, the list goes on. People will wind up with
the
not
people
much
down there in Conyers too. I've seen about a assistance center being set up, and that's a big thing, you know, that was going on up here. They set up an assistance center, Oak did, and now those reimbursements that people were getting through the assistance center are now coming out of their settlement money. So people that had to stay in a hotel because they were sick being at their homes for like over a year, and paying for food the whole time and everything, all that adds up to more than $70,000. So they get nothing.
Yep. Absolutely.
They might try to do the same thing down there. I don't know, because it's a different company, but
right. Christina, what do you think? I want to kind of, you guys know I always end the show like this. Like, what do you want to leave the audience with? What do you want them to take away from what we've discussed tonight? Like, what do you want people to know about East Palestine and Pennsylvania, where you are? I think people need to understand that, you know, well, one of the times I went to East Palestine on Taggart Street, I literally, my left foot was Ohio, my right foot was Pennsylvania. East Palestine literally connects to Pennsylvania. So, Christina, what's that?
Even like I said about the wetlands earlier. So that train derailed right near businesses that are near the wetlands, but the wetlands are I think part of them are in Pennsylvania, right? Yeah, part of them are in Pennsylvania and some of them it's in Ohio. But if the train derailed and it's somehow this monobutyl ether got into the wetlands, like that's both Ohio and Pennsylvania being contaminated. Okay. Just from the spill. Let alone where the plume went. And that's the thing too, like down there in Georgia. I'm 5.9 miles away and was sick from this. I know some people that were further that have lost all their hair and have been sick and stuff. And it definitely goes further. Like we've said from the beginning, there's no bubble that the contamination just decides to stay in. So like people down there that even if you're not within the radius that they've evacuated and you're sick, it's not out of the realm of possibility that it's not from Biolab.
Exactly. So what do you want people to take away from this?
I don't, don't trust everything that they're telling you. Really.
Absolutely.
And really, I think I've told them before too, like, your community needs to stick together with each other and don't let it get divided.
Absolutely. Scott, what would you like people to take away from this?
I would, we have a distraction next week with the election, and the outcome really doesn't matter. No matter what, I mean, I'm a fierce independent. No matter what happens, it's time to get back to business, and because the power's in the community, not in who's president. It's the system. Just look at the judges and the court system. But I just want everybody to be optimistic. I'm seeing great things happen between the communities, connecting between Conyers and East Palestine. That's the future, because what the government can't stop is millions of people coming together. I'm very optimistic about that. So I just wanted to, the message is, no matter what, don't get obsessed with this media trying to divide us. In many ways, what happens next Tuesday is totally irrelevant.
Yeah.
If we stay on course and bring millions of people together, that's how we're going to get the change.
Absolutely. So, on that note, you guys, I know many of us are very involved in the Palestine movement, and it can become consuming. But I also want to make it clear that it's important we still fight for other things. And this is, East Palestine, something I've been covering since the day it happened and will always continue to do so. And just be mindful that there are other things that still need to be talked about that are far, far from over. So I thank you so much for watching. And I have a few other shows coming up. But yes, also, if you want to see why Government Accountability Project represents me, you can watch the tape I whistle blew Mark Durno, the head of East Palestine EPA. Christina was in the office with me when I taped it. It's pretty interesting. It's about an hour and a half, and he said some interesting things. That's on my YouTube, and actually that's how Scott and I got connected. So yeah, and that just had a 1-year anniversary, so we've been friends for a while. That's pretty rad. So but
we're not done. We're just getting started with Mr. Durno, I can assure you that.
Oh yes. And for those who don't know, Durno came from Flint, so you know what kind of guy he is. Keep that in mind. So, Scott, Christina, do you want to plug any websites or Facebooks or Twitters?
I would just say that if anybody wants to reach out to me, you can reach out on Facebook or on X at Water Warrior 1. And I just formed a group. This has been in the making since Hank Bagwell did the Guy in the Blue Shirt documentary. Blue Shirt Justice League. Go on Facebook. There's where I'm getting a lot of information out through everything, all the activities I'm involved in. So just go on Facebook, type in Blue Shirt Justice League, follow it, and we'll keep updating there. And I can assure you that when it comes to these depositions with trolls, with Durno, I'm going to live stream depositions on my YouTube channel, on X, and on the Blue Shirt Justice League Facebook page.
I'm ready with popcorn. Oh, yeah. Again, thank you both so much for joining, and thank Krissy. I know she had to drop. And thank you all so much for watching. Again, smash the like, smash subscribe, and share this. And as always, keep talking about East Palestine and surrounding areas. This is clearly about corruption, capitalism, environment, lack of healthcare. This is about every single thing you can think of. Everything is interconnected here. So we need to fight for all of those things. And I don't see a better example of something that is a culmination of all the things that we want to change.
Yep.
So thank you again so much, and much love to everyone.
Thanks, Joy. I see you,
Oh,
Christina.
and thank you, Matt. Thank you, Matt, for
Yeah,
helping.
Matt is the glue that holds it all together.
He is. He is. Have a
Okay.
good night, everyone.
Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.